Waterman. I'm the CEO of Top Writing Services, Inc. Doing my best to add our guest tonight, Jenn Taylor. She is the author of Our Promises, a childhood book for little girls or children of color to love their culture, love themselves. Looking forward to having her on the line, and hopefully when she joins in, we'll be able to add her. Hi. Okay, awesome.
Yay!
How are you doing today?
Very good, and yourself?
Feeling really good.
Good.
Glad to have you on the line.
Yes, I'm glad we were able to do this. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, you're welcome, Jen. So everybody on the line, thanks for joining the Alberta Business Show. I have Jenn Taylor on the line. She is an author, a self-care enthusiast, and a mother. And she lives here in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. I know that she has a book called Our Promises. It caught my eye not too long ago, and I wanted to have her on the line. Hi, thanks for joining, everyone, to chat with us about what she's doing, her book, and other things that she has coming up with her career or her business.
Thank you so much for having me. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, that was a lovely intro. Thank you so much. I did just put my first children's book out. It came out this July. It's called My Promises, and it's available exclusively on Amazon. And the link is in my bio.
Awesome. Now, can you tell us a bit about it? What was the inspiration behind this? Was it something that happened in your childhood, or were you noticing things that were happening I don't know, in the world that inspired you to write this book?
That's a great question. And I would have to say it was definitely a combination of both. I did grow up in a neighborhood, Kitchener, Ontario, if you've heard of it, where it was not predominantly a lot of families from different ethnic backgrounds. So my childhood, I did feel quite different and stood out as different. So I think that the book began to pull from definitely my childhood, also having a daughter and wanting her to have a message as well about being proud and happy with who you are. So it was definitely a combination of my childhood and pulling from adulthood, wanting to make a difference.
It's a small world. I actually have an uncle in Kitchener, Ontario. Thanks for joining. And he... obviously, he's Black, but he married a Caucasian woman, and so they had 4 biracial children living up there. And I would go for the summers to meet them and, do sleepovers. That's what kids do. And I think they had a bit of a culture shock, too. Kitchener is very rural, but suburban at the same time. So
for sure.
It's interesting. And I also noticed on your bio that you are a self-care enthusiast. Can you tell us a little bit more about that as well?
Yes, I definitely had to learn firsthand about taking care of myself. I've always been very go, go, go. And I had very little balance. And I found myself speaking about balance and actually not practicing it. And I started to burn out. So it took me really learning how to take care of myself to really get that message across to others. So I really like to do small acts to bigger acts. So anywhere from the little things, taking care of myself, like skincare, and really diving into that, but also on a bigger scale, which would be mindfulness and try to take care of my overall health.
Right. And as a mother, I don't have children yet, but I can imagine you have a book, children, a job, or a business. What might have caused some things to happen? Was it like a balance of motherhood? And I think one of the things I hear mothers say a lot is they don't have time for themselves. So without sharing too much, if you're not comfortable, what kind of caused that burnout to happen?
I would say working with little to no breaks. At the time I was running a mobile fitness business, and I was working 7 days a week and loving what I was doing, but I definitely wasn't taking care of myself. So I was taking care of everyone else around me. So I guess that does tie a little bit into motherhood. And I had to learn from that.
I can imagine. I think a lot of the conversation these days with people from all backgrounds is really high anxiety for so many different reasons. How do you help people get from being anxious or having that feeling of self-doubt to becoming self-aware?
That's a great question. And I think that really starts with self. So in terms of becoming self-aware, I don't know if that's something we can always teach. I think that that's typically something people have to learn for themselves as they're going through life. Self-awareness is something that it almost has to come a little bit naturally. I don't know if that's something we can necessarily teach.
That's true. That is true. And for myself, I found like Tony Robbins in the probably the mid 2000s, just by chance. My boyfriend at the time, he was big into business, and I kind of fell upon the Napoleon Hills and all this other stuff. But that was quite a long time ago, and been consistently reading these authors every single week, every day. Do you have any books that you would recommend people at this time who need like a voice of reason to keep going despite all the things that are happening in the world today?
That's a great question. That's a really good question. I do have a book that has really sat with me. It's called Resonate. And if you're not familiar, her name is Alex Wolf, and she was the original creator of Boss Babe. That was a great book. She's since moved on and really taken a step back to look at more of the science of social media. So I found her book to be quite interesting, and I would definitely recommend it to people who are looking for more than just surface and more substance in terms of social media.
And so you mentioned that you had a mobile practice. Are you still doing that mobily, or are you now pivoting towards like a virtual experience for your customers?
Yeah, I actually decided at the beginning of 2020 to shut down the mobile side of the business. It was more around Christmas of last year where I was really not having that time at home that I was desperately needing. And I wasn't resting as much as I should be. And I knew that I wasn't able to cut my hours back. I had to really step away, or else I wasn't going to ever really start to focus on my rest and my health. So I decided to shut down the mobile side, and I transitioned my clients into online training. And that was a wonderful way to start the new year, was transitioning into online. And then unfortunately we were hit with COVID. So that ended up being a very wise decision. But overall, that's how I more or less transitioned.
That's excellent. I like hearing these success stories of people that pivoted way before what's happening this year. So I'm happy to hear that you're able to still meet people's needs in a virtual way and help people probably even more than you were able to before. And what do you see yourself doing for the future? Do you have like a 2-year or 5-year goal of where you see your business going?
That's a great question. This year, because I really had to look at my own health in terms of more rest, I'm taking a bigger overall look at health and wellness and how that plays a part, because that continues to change, and how people see fitness. It isn't just about workout equipment or just about nutrition. There's so many facets to our overall health. So having to really take a step back and focus on my health this year has helped to give some insight into where some of the focus needs to go for the future of fitness industry. So I don't have everything laid out into how I'm going to continue my business. I'll still service clients online in the new year. And at this time, I'll also be focusing on my book, My Promises, and I really want to get that book to as many readers as possible.
That's excellent. And one thing that I always ask people on the Alberta Business Show, not people, but entrepreneurs on this show is when the world suddenly changed the first or second week of March, on a personal level and from a business perspective, did that impact you in a positive way? Because people like myself, I'm naturally an introvert. So when I realized that I had to spend more time at home, I was like, yes, I don't have to go out in big crowds and network. But how are you from a personal and a business level?
That's another great question. I was already servicing clients online. The week that everything shut down was actually my last scheduled week to work with clients. So at that time, I was unable to take on any new clients. But getting back to the whole COVID and the business side of it, I was already servicing clients online. And during the break, it was more about rest instead of go, which I was doing for a really long time. So I was really taking that time to rest and be okay with everything that was happening. I took it as more of a blessing instead of a burden. I was disappointed I wasn't able to travel and and all of that. But in terms of business, I took it as maybe a wake-up call that the focus needed to be on other things.
I'm happy for you. And one thing that I like about your content is it's very refreshing. Like every time I read your captions, I feel like I'm reading somebody who's very happy with being in her own skin. And that's something that's very rare because I'm on 6 different platforms for my business. And I read captions. And as a writer, I can tell who's, self-aware, who's really happy. And it's very easy for me to pick up. But whenever I see your photos and your captions, I'm like, this woman is happy. She is self-aware. She is doing her best to live her best life, and she's beaming positivity. What advice can you give for other maybe potential authors or people that now have to become entrepreneurs, maybe because they lost their job or maybe they're just not happy with their business? What advice can you give them to get in that place of inner peace and happiness?
I would tell people to really get selfish with taking care of themselves. And I don't want to sound cliche, but really learning more about authenticity and what that looks like. Because becoming really comfortable in your own skin is a fun place to be. So I would tell people to definitely embrace taking the time to learn more about themselves, what kind of message they want to put out, and to also quiet the noise, to have that time to reflect and focus on what their actual goals are, instead of being sometimes a little, I guess the word would be almost tainted in a way about other people's dreams and goals when you're taking so much in. So really to quiet the mind and focus on your own goals so you're not ending up living someone else's dream.
That's a good point. And I wanted to touch on your book with, obviously you don't want to give too much of the story, but can you tell us a little bit about the characters so that some of us can get a better understanding of who this little girl is? And
For sure. And I love all of your questions, by the way. Yeah, this is a great show. My book, My Promises, the character is every little girl of color. I want every little girl of color reading it to be able to identify with that character and be able to really feel what those promises are, the message behind them. So the book, My Promises, shares promises that are important, I believe, as a message to young girls of color. So for every little reader reading that message, I want them to be able to feel proud, like they can take on the world, and they can see themselves in that character.
I think that's great. I can't speak for your experience, but I guess I was pretty lucky as a little girl. My parents, they purposefully planted like African art everywhere, like literally at the bottom of the stairs going down to the basement, like the bathroom and our bedroom. Like they purposefully did it. And I was having a conversation with my dad the other day, and I was asking him, did you guys like purposefully put like African art everywhere, and not just like Ethiopian, like my complexion, but like your complexion, or like Michael Jordan's complexion? Did you do that on purpose? And my dad was like, yeah, of course I did that, because when you Black children, when you go out into society, nobody's going to teach you who you are. They're going to tell you who you are, and we consciously do that and did that on purpose. But the people that aren't doing stuff like that and having conversations about like George Floyd's and whatever is happening in the world, the little kids that don't have that kind of exposure, they can pick up this book and see themselves within the book, which is very important.
Right. Yes, thank you. That's what I was hoping for.
And do you have anything else to share with our audience? Do you have any other new books coming out, any cartoons, anything interesting that you'd like to share with our audience tonight?
Well, I will tell you in advance, before my platform finds out, I will be doing a Christmas contest giveaway for a signed copy of the book. So that'll be announced pretty soon here. But in terms of the book, I have recently been able to get some copies in a few libraries in the United States. And that is something that really brought me joy, to find out that the book is getting to children that desperately need to hear this kind of information. So the focus right now, before I jump into a new endeavor with a new book, is to really continue to get the message of my promises out.
Excellent. We have quite a number of people on the line. Does anyone have any questions for Jenn Taylor? I know some of you joined a little later, but she is an author of a child's book. She's also a self-care enthusiast, and she's an entrepreneur and a mom. So if you have any questions for her, leave them below in the comments here, and she'll be more than happy to answer your questions. Glad that I have you on the Alberta Business Show. I've tried to reach out to many other female entrepreneurs here in the city, and some of them are, it's funny because when I invite men, they're so quick to come on, even if things are not going quite well for them right now. Thanks for joining, Miss Lade. And but I'm finding women, they kind of stall a bit, and I don't know if there are personal things that are going on in their life. But I'm so glad to have you on the line, and love the questions you asked. It sounded like a lovely book. Oh,
thank you so much.
All right, everyone. I have a couple more people on the line. Does anyone have any questions for Jenn Taylor, just to open up a bit of her bio? She is an author. She has a book out called Our Promises, and it's a book for children of color, just to read the book and find themselves in the book and to really embrace who they are, their culture and how they look, etc. She's also a mother. She's here in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and she runs a business where she's a self-care enthusiast, helping people really find themselves and improve who they are as men and women. So if you have any questions on the line, any questions about entrepreneurship or writing a book, or how she was able to pivot her business from an in-person business way before COVID-19 to actually going virtual, way before the world kind of became disrupted, feel free to leave questions below, and we'll stay here for another 5 minutes and just kind of wait. Trying to see if there's anything else that I can ask.
I will get back to the question that you had asked earlier. While everyone is writing their questions below, I do find that there is a bit of a stall between working with other female entrepreneurs. It takes a little bit more legwork, I found. I'm not quite sure the reason, but I do find that I have to put a lot of effort into navigating partnerships. So I try to be pretty open and honest, like even you have been to myself when we're DMing each other about the reasons behind why I'm reaching out. But I found the same thing.
Awesome. So I have a question from Miss Lade Shade. What is the best way to teach child to forgive themselves as they transition through their lives?
That's a great question. I really like that question, and I would have to say that it's okay to say that, you screwed up, or I made a mistake. And I think it's really good for children to acknowledge that from a young age. I know that that's something that I did as a parent, and I continue to do, is it's okay to say, this is where I was wrong, and acknowledging our faults from a really young age can help us with accountability when they're older. So just having the conversation that it's okay.
What are your thoughts on, I see this a lot. I think my dad used to do this. My mother was a little bit more, she would talk to us as children, but my dad, he would talk to us as adults. And sometimes when he wanted us to think on our own 2 feet, and we'd ask him, hey, this happened at school, Dad. Like, what do you think? Oh, I see there's a little bit of a glitch there. Just wait on the line for, okay. So what do you think about parents who kind of talk to their children as adults, and not necessarily like, you go to school and, walk 10 miles by yourself, at the dark or whatever, but what do you think about that kind of parenting style?
I say I let people do their own thing. Whatever works. There's no rule book to parenting. It's a challenge as you navigate, because something new is happening all the time, and how one family may handle something could work, but it might not work for another family. So I would say communication is better than none. So whether you're communicating to your child like an adult or like a child at their level, that's better than nothing. So we always want to encourage communication.
Does anyone else have any questions on the line for Jenn? Thanks for that question, Miss Ladeshade. We appreciate that. So, Ms. Ladeshade says, how do we keep children from internalizing the issues of their parents?
Oh, that's a very good question. I don't think that comes until you're an adult. I'm sure it could start young, but that also would have to be parents being able to say, I screwed up. So it goes the same way. I think that we realize once we get to a certain age that our own parents are still just people. We look at them like they're our everything when we're growing up, and then we get to a certain age and realize our parents are still just regular people that were trying to figure it out for themselves. So I guess it would also go the same way for parents having to say, I guess you don't want to say don't end up like me, but mom made a mistake. And I want to acknowledge that so that you can understand why I said or did what I did.
Yeah, well, I don't have children, but maybe even the thought, in addition to what you said of like teaching forgiveness, I think it seems like it's something that's happening a lot these days. So we have another question. How do we create understanding in the parent-child relationship?
That's pretty similar to the last question, though. So I would have to say it continues on the topic of communication. How do we create understanding? Is we have to be able to communicate. So whether that's with our children, having to speak to some of our friends or family, keeping the communication open all the way around is typically healthy, I found, for raising children.
Absolutely. That's a good question.
But you were in the middle of answering the last one.
Oh, yes. I think forgiveness, teaching children forgiveness, and not necessarily if a parent is doing something bad, you should forgive me because I'm your parent. I don't like that mindset at all. But I think if you teach children from the very beginning that human beings are the way they are and you can't always change people, it's a self-choice. But at the same time, you have to set boundaries because you don't want to be walked all over.
Right.
I think that comes with time. I think when I got a little bit older, I had to forgive my parents for certain things. And then also getting older and realizing they're human beings. They are who they are. Mm-hmm. They learn from their parents. So, but maybe I wish that the forgiveness thing would have been taught to me when I was a little girl, because then maybe I wouldn't have put them, like you said, on a high pedestal.
Right.
Yeah. All right.
Great questions.
Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us this evening. I know you guys could be watching TV or on TikTok or something. And thank you, Jenn Taylor, for joining us. I appreciate you, your energy. I'm really, really happy that you're an entrepreneur and you're living your best life. And I'd love to have you on the show again when you have a new update with your book or anything else like that. Let me know, and I'd be glad to have you on the line again.
Yes, thank you so much, Makita, for having me on the show. And I really enjoy your platform. Your videos have helped me tremendously. And yes, they really have. I really enjoy when they pop up in my feed. I'm sure I have a bunch of them saved. So thank you for your content and your smile and your energy. It's very much appreciated.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Have a good night, everybody. And I'm going to share this on IGTV. So anyone that came in kind of late and wants to watch the entire conversation, check out my IGTV in about 10 minutes. I just have to write up the caption and upload it on my page. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Good night.
Have a good night. Sade. Take care.